Let's for a moment here suspend disbelief, right? We're operating, we're humming in terms of removing barriers as we go forward. Our kids are both physically and mentally present in the classroom. What's the nature of that engagement? I think you're going to find our next speaker extremely interesting in that regard. Captain Barrington Irving is a pilot and an educator. Let's get into his mind a little bit. This is something he said. Kids want to be challenged, but today, too many are bored, uninspired. I want to use aviation to excite and empower a new generation to become scientists, engineers, and explorers. Barrington Irving is very good at raising above obstacles, literally. Raised in Miami's inner city, surrounded by crime, poverty, and failing schools, he beat the odds to become the youngest person, the only African American ever to fly solo around the world. He built a plane himself, made a historic flight, graduated magna cum laude from an aeronautical science program, and founded a dynamic educational nonprofit. Then he turned 28. His message for kids: the only thing that separates you from CEOs in the corner of our offices or scientists in labs is determination, hard work, and a passion for what you want to achieve. The only person who can stop you from doing something great is you. Even if no one believes your dreams, you have to pursue it. The secret, he believes, is having dreams in the first place. And that starts with powerful learning experiences that inspires kids to pursue careers, particularly in science, technology, engineering, and math. With that, I'd like to bring Captain Barrington Irving to the stage. Thank you.
Well, good morning, everyone. Man, I'm very honored to be here, and I'll be honest with you. I've traveled to a lot of communities seeking to amass resources and so forth in order to create progress and change in their community. And Detroit has everything it needs. I don't know if you all realize that. You all have everything you need in order to create change in this community right here. Before I continue, though, I'd love to, and I know he's walking away because that's humble Rod, but Rod and Tara, I really appreciate you guys. I know it's a whole team effort, but these are the type of discussions we should be having in our communities. If my community was having these types of discussions, I probably would have made my first million at the age of 20. My communities were having this type of discussion, I probably would have flown around the world at age 19 instead of age 23. My community was having these type of discussions, I wouldn't be the only person, still the only black man to fly solo around the world. This is important. This is important for a number of reasons. I'm a byproduct of what can happen when a community comes together and says, let's do something about this. So as I get into sharing my story, I'd also like to recognize Jennifer Boykins as well, and the Scholastic team, Michelle Edwards. I don't know where Michelle is, but both of them have honestly brought me to this community to do some great work. And please, huge round of applause together for both DPS and Scholastic. So I'll jump right into it. This is me when I was a kid. Grew up from very humble beginnings. I was born in Kingston, Jamaica, moved to Miami, Florida. I grew up in two of the three worst neighborhoods in Miami, and that was Liberty City as well as Opelika. While growing up in Miami, I attended a high school called Miami Northwestern Senior High School. We were ranked #1 in the nation as it relates to football. Academics, that was a different story. But we're really good in football. As you can see, this is me right here, and I played fullback and linebacker. Back then, my neck was 18 and a half inches. I was 197 pounds, ran a 4.3 and a 40. Football was everything to me, and that's honestly all I cared about. Until one day I was in a store minding my own business, and I bumped into this gentleman, Captain Gary Robinson. This guy walks into the store with his pilot's uniform on, and I'm just looking at him saying to myself, man, this brother looks sharp. And while I'm looking at him, I'm saying, man, he looks like he makes good money. We just heard our previous speaker mention the fact that young people want to understand how much money you make. When Captain Robinson saw me, and he saw that I was looking at him, he walked over to me and he said, hey, son, have you ever thought about becoming a pilot? My response to him was, I said, sir, I don't think I'm smart enough to fly an aircraft. But I asked him one pivotal question. That question was this: how much money do you make? His response to my question was, he said, son, I make $117 an hour. I never knew anyone that made $117 an hour legally. When he told me that, I took an interest in aviation. Interest turned into passion. And while I was in high school, this is my former social studies teacher, Miss Batiste. Take a real good look at her face. I couldn't stand this woman every time I went to her class. She was one of those teachers that required a high level of excellence, truly great expectation for her students. And I was just spoiled as an athlete. You know, it's like, gosh, I got to come to this woman's class and work every single day. Of course, across the country, you have what's called signing day. And that's where you announce which collegiate team you will continue to play for. Everyone expected me to say I will continue to play for the University of Florida. When signing day came, I decided to turn down my football scholarship and pursue a career in aviation. Miss Batiste was the one person in my school who told me I made the right decision to turn down football for a career in aviation. Thanks to this woman, thanks to this teacher. Remember I told you I played for a team that was ranked #1 in the nation. Only 2 players on that team made it to the NFL. Longest they lasted was 2.5, 3 years. Thanks to STEM, I've made more money than both of them combined. There are real opportunities available to our young people. And don't get me wrong, when I turned on a football scholarship, I said, man, what am I thinking? What am I getting myself into? This is what the children you all serve, the decisions that they're going through. Now that I'm a man, I realize the question I was asking Mr. Robinson of the $117 an hour wasn't a question truly of so much about the money. What I was trying to conceive and picture is what will my life look like if I chase this career? I never one time asked my mentor, well, how much math do I have to learn? How much science do I have to learn? Kids do not care about the journey. They care about the destination. That's where part of the disconnect is occurring with our young people. They're no different than adults. If you want to shift careers and change careers, what's one of the first things you want to know? How much money will I make? When I said I wanted to fly around the world, so I turned down a scholarship, went to community college for a year, then transferred to HBCU and received my bachelor's degree in aeronautical science and started earning my flight licenses. I said I wanted to fly around the world. Why did I say that? Because my mentor challenged me to give back. And I remember saying to him, I don't have any money to give. His response to me was, I'm not asking you to give money. I'm asking you to share your knowledge, your experiences, and what you've learned over the past few years with others. Knew nothing about setting a record. I simply wanted to fly around the world. Saying it was easy, getting it done was another thing. For 2.5 years, people told me no, and this is one of my rejection letters. You'll see this letter came from Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola said to me, here at the headquarters, we focus on events and programs that are national or international in scope when considering sponsorship requests. I'm saying to myself, I'm trying to fly around the world. You can't get more national or international in scope than that. So I realized people weren't understanding what exactly I was trying to accomplish. And in this next slide, you're looking at the one pair of dress shoes I owned at the time. Notice I still have them saved till this day to remind me of where I came from. Notice I have 1, 2, 3 holes in the bottom of my shoes. And I wore those shoes to major aviation events such as this one. Walking from booth to booth, asking people to help me fly around the world. Now, when I said earlier, you guys have all the resources to succeed in the city, I truly meant that. Of course, to fly around the world, what's the first thing you need? An aircraft. This was my first one. This airplane cost $650,000. How was a poor kid able to afford a plane that cost $650,000? No one wanted to rent me an aircraft, lease me one, let me borrow one, nothing. So I had to learn to become resourceful. I was never a part of this in my community, but I saw it happening all the time. What happens when someone steals a car and the police can't find the car? What happens to the car? Come on, this is Detroit. Y'all better know the answer. What happens to the car? That's right, it goes to the chop shop. In seeing that, that's when I realized, because you see the different parts sold to different individuals and companies, and that's when it hit me. I said, hold on. Just because one company's logo is on the front of the car doesn't mean that company made all the parts contained in the vehicle. I was just using street knowledge. Then I taught myself, okay, these companies that make all the different parts, you call them original equipment manufacturers. I listed out every single manufacturer that made every single part on this aircraft, and I went after them one by one to secure things such as the engine, the 4 seats in the airplane, the air conditioning, the cockpit system. I cut the cost of the plane from $650,000 down to $350,000. And all I asked these companies to do, I said, look, I don't want any cash. Think about it. They're not used to that. I'm not asking you for money. I'm asking you for the resource you create and the resource that could be a benefit to me. Just donate the resource to me, and I'll make it happen. I'll put your logo on the aircraft and so forth. By taking that approach, I was able to outsmart the system and obtain this aircraft at the age of 22. One thing about community partnerships, for everyone in this room, doesn't necessarily have to be an exchange of cash. Corporations are willing to work with you in so many different ways. But guess what I found? A lot of these companies who first gave me an opportunity in providing a part, that was the first level of partnership, eventually that turned into funding for my programs. Because people truly want to see, are you about what exactly you said you're going to do? So I was able to get this airplane, and back in March 23rd of 2007, I took off to fly around the world. This is a picture of me inside the aircraft. The suit that I'm wearing, that's a suit that costs $15,000. It's a special survival suit. If I had to make an emergency landing in freezing water, this suit would give me 5 to 7 minutes to get out of the plane, get out of the freezing water, and into a life raft. Although physically I was the only person inside of the aircraft, I worked with a great team of individuals, about 80 different individuals, and I communicated with them via this black box. I would sit in this position for as long as 12, 13 hours at a time. The youngest person to fly around the world prior to me was 37 years of age, and I was able to accomplish it at the age of 23 with the help of some amazing individuals. While flying around the world, of course, this is one of the pictures back when I had hair. This is in Cairo, Egypt. Anyone notice anything weird about this picture? All right, I'm sitting on a horse instead of a camel. Why am I sitting on a horse instead of a camel? I asked a group of elementary school students this question last year. A young man in the back of the classroom raised his hand with a stern face. He said, "Sir, I know why you're on a horse instead of a camel." I said, "Tell me why." He said, "Sir, that's what Americans do." The reason why I'm on a horse instead of a camel is because on the day I decided to fly around the world, I only had $30 in my pocket. No one knew this. But I strategically knew once I departed, the community would begin to believe and to support me. The entire project cost $1.2 million. I didn't even have enough cash on me to fill up my aircraft with fuel at my first stop, which would have cost me about $700 to fill it up with fuel. Once I left, the more money was raised, but of course, I still had to be frugal throughout the entire process. And the reason why I bring up that point is when we talk about collaboration and community partnerships and so forth, no one's going to do anything until you start and do it for yourself. That's just the fact of life. We go on to the next slide. After flying around the world, so I set the Guinness World Record. It stood for 5 years. I helped 2 others beat my record. And after flying around the world, I then decided to get involved in education thanks to a letter which came from a teacher. I'm saying to myself, okay, I'm going to get involved in education. I don't know what I'm doing. But then I said, is it really this complicated? Is it really this complicated, or is it just that we're adults and we like to make things complicated? So I truly wanted to understand that. And this was one of the first projects we did where I took 60 kids from failing high schools in Miami to build an aircraft from scratch. This was the aircraft they built in a record 10 weeks. After building the aircraft, we flew it on its first flight. Young lady on the left-hand side, Bakari, when she started out with me, she couldn't point out a half an inch or a 16th of an inch on a ruler. She is now in her senior year, wrapping up her math major on a full scholarship at Duke University. Young man, thank you. Thank you. Young man on the right-hand side, when he started out with me, it took him 2 hours to figure out how to turn on a vacuum. He thought the red button on the vacuum meant do not touch. He's now disarming bombs for the military. But I'm saying to myself, something is wrong with this picture. How is it a high school student don't know where a half an inch is on a ruler? So I wanted to understand a bit more, and I started working with students at the elementary and middle school levels. So instead of buying a Ferrari, I had students build me a car faster than a Ferrari, and these were kids from grades 5 through 8. They built me a car faster than a Ferrari 430 Spider, and this car does 0 to 60 in 2.7 to 2.9 seconds. So the potential, and all these kids are from failing schools in South Florida. Then we said, okay, let's start to branch outside of Florida. And this one was done in Dallas, Texas, right, with middle school students. We then did another one with Latino students in Houston, Texas. And we currently have a build going on in Atlanta, Georgia. All the vehicles start off like this. When they're finished, this is what their car will look like, a 1965 Daytona Coupe replica. So what is the problem when it comes to industry and the classroom? What is the challenge? Because when I originally started down this path, I thought it was the students. I realized it is not really the students that the issue lies with. And some of you might not like me for the comments I'm about to make, and I understand that, but I'm an honest and truthful person. Education is an industry that truly is lost with how to communicate to its customer. Think about it. Apparel companies, cell phone companies, they have no problems figuring out how to engage students. The one industry that should be the master above all masters in knowing how to engage children struggles with that concept. The greatest sales force in this country are educators. What are you in the business of? Some may say teaching, inspiring, leading. Of course, all those points are true. But let me tell you what you are truly in the business of. Marketing. What exactly do I mean? If you don't have a way to engage students to actually care about what they're about to learn, you've lost them for that entire class period. Now, educators, I know it's not that easy. I know there are tons of challenges and logistics that goes into this. But the question I have for you is, are your students really that much more different than you? Why is it kids don't pass their tests, quizzes, and exams? We don't have to spend millions of dollars to research this and figure out why is it they don't pass it. They don't care to. There is no reason for them to want to. You've only painted the picture of the journey and have not sold me on the destination. What is the purpose behind learning? When I was in school, I used to hate decimals. If I got the first 2 or 4 decimals right, who cares about the other 7 or 8, 9 decimals? I saw no purpose behind it. When I fly a plane and I land at over 200 miles per hour in the middle of nowhere, can't see the runway, you best to believe every single one of those decimals become very important in order to do that. We are all storytellers. We all have the opportunity to share something with students, but in a dynamic way. In realizing this, I decided to launch a curriculum in partnership with Scholastic that we call the Flying Classroom. I wanted to bring to life, why is math and science important? So we transformed this business jet into a real-life magic school bus, and we travel around the world exploring different concepts as it relates to STEM. Why do we do that? Because your children only see a part of the equation. I'll explain more. That's my co-pilot, Tom. We fly at an altitude of 45,000 feet, a little bit higher than the airlines. At that altitude, if we had rapid decompression, what would happen to the human body? Yes, you'd pass out, but what else would happen to the human body? You explode outwards. Why do you explode outwards? Because you have a gas inside of your body called nitrogen. See, these are the things kids like. You go fast, you could blow up, you could kill yourself. These are the type of things that kids like. How do we engage? You remember Miss Batiste, my former high school teacher who I used to hate? When I brought up to her the concept of the flying classroom, she was like, Barrington, I don't care what you do. That's always Miss Batiste. All right? I don't care what you do. Know this, all you have is 15 seconds. If you can't engage my kids in 15 seconds, I've lost them for my entire class period. This is where we can leverage industry in the classroom. We've traveled to every continent except for Australia, and this is what it looks like when we're flying in the middle of nowhere.
200 land through. Right.
Can't see a thing. Runway underneath you. Buildings around you, mountains around you. And you have to land the aircraft precisely where you want it to. Let me know when you see the runway.
Speed brakes up. Operator.
If you get this wrong, you're going to have a real long day. Real long day. So one of the things we've done with Scholastic is we go out and we combine tech sets, for example. So it's not just going out and doing these expeditions. Literacy is also a very important aspect of this as well. If you can't read, you can't do anything. You can't understand a manual, you can't fly that approach to land on a runway. This is an example of one of our expeditions. How do you get kids to care about food waste and bacteria? Well, we traveled to San Diego, California, and we spent 48 hours eating out of a dumpster. I worked with this gentleman, Rob Greenfield, and you guys looking at me crazy, but don't worry, it'll make sense in a few seconds. Within our first hour of dumpster diving, we found over 500 pounds of food. Of the 500 pounds of food, only 19 pounds of it was spoiled. I make a really good living. I still eat out of the dumpster sometimes. Matter of fact, I take my wife out on dates, and we eat out of the dumpster together. What's wrong? It's free food. There's nothing wrong with the food. Half my backyard has been done by Pier 1 Imports. Holiday seasons, we go to Kirkland's. The dumpster, this is just the dumpster. This is not inside the stores. The average grocery store throws out 250 pounds to 500 pounds of food a day. Think about all your students who come to school hungry each and every single day. Here's a quick video clip of our experience
All right, Barrington, see those dumpsters
with
right
Rob
there?
eating out the dumpster.
Filled to the brim? That's dumpster gold right there.
Those are two words that just don't go together, dumpster and gold.
So notice I got my hat on, I have my shades on, I'm so embarrassed.
First
My brother in California eating out of dumpsters, I couldn't believe
I
it.
feel a little bit embarrassed a little bit. Like
You walking around with no shoes.
I see you said mushrooms. Look at this.
Tomatoes.
Look at
You want to
this.
grow your own basil? Organic bananas shipped all the way from Peru to end up in a dumpster. Oh, check out this strawberry.
That was the first trip. And we took the food and gave it away at a university campus. And yes, we did tell people the food came out of the dumpster. But imagine you're an educator and you have the ability to introduce a subject some students would find mundane, such as bacteria, and engage them in this manner, because kids would want to know, well, how could I eat out of the dumpster? How can I help someone else who doesn't have food? This is another one we did, focus on 3D printing. At times it's important to teach students about a career. At times it's also important to teach students about an industry. Why is 3D printing important? It's more than just, yes, bringing your ideas to life, but why is it important? 3D printing is going to revolutionize manufacturing in the same facet the video camera revolutionized journalism. Well, as a teacher, how do you know how to explain this stuff? How long does it take? If you saw something amazing in STEM today, how long will it take to reach your classroom? Developed and packaged in the form of a curriculum. 3 to 5 years. Which industry can survive with information coming 3 to 5 years later in order to appeal to young people? Most math and science teachers don't have professional backgrounds in those fields. Is it their fault? No. I graduated as an aeronautical scientist. Can I teach you on biomedical engineering? No. Can I teach you on regenerative medicine? No. So why isn't it we're not packaging content in a way where you don't have to be a subject matter expert to teach on STEM and to teach on what's presently involved in industry? How many guys believe coding is important? Raise your hand. Learning how to code. Why is it important? Software development? That's a good point. Why else is it important? Why else is coding important? Okay, it teaches students how to think, how to process. It's a light switch. Oh, it's a language, correct. It's where industry is going, correct? What if I told you this? What if I told you I saw the future and very soon coding will become something that's automated? How long will that take to reach your classroom? See the challenge we're dealing with? At Nike, they figured out a way to utilize 3D printing where no longer will you have to go to a department store to buy a brand new pair of shoes. Nike has figured out a way where within the next 5 years, you'll have the capability to 3D print a brand new pair of Nikes at home on a 3D printer and walk out of your house with them on your feet. There are NFL players that are playing the game of football right now with 3D printed cleats on. The only question is, how long can the shoe last for athletes? So there's another one we did in Bali focused on coral reefs and restoration. And in Bali, they do what's called dynamite fishing. They take a stick of dynamite, throw it into the ocean, it explodes. Of course, they're able to easily capture the fish, but they end up damaging the coral reef. Well, we work with scientists, artists, and engineers to figure out a way to, they build these sculptures, lay them on the ocean floor, cement them in biorock, but they also wire electricity to the reef in order to accelerate the growth that much faster. It's another one we did. This one was in Israel. The digestive system. How do you bring that to life for students? Well, I swallowed this camera pill and give students a virtual tour of my digestive system, and this is what inside my intestine looks like. See, when students are able to see stuff like this, you start to create meaning behind theory. This is what it looks like when you don't take care of your body. Notice the difference. Some of you guys looking like, oh, I shouldn't have drank last night. Well, here's another one we did focused on regenerative medicine. New industry. This doctor has figured out a way to, after studying salamanders, to 3D print and grow a kidney as well as a liver. Mark my words, by the end of this century, we will not need an organ donor except for the brain. Here's what this gentleman figured out. He only has to grow the organ to a 10% functioning capacity because the human body will do the rest to replenish the organ. It just has to be at a 10% functioning capacity. These are the things going on, and our students don't know about. And then we're trying to figure out ways to get them through the back door when they could walk through the front door with everyone else. That's why this awareness is very key. That's why this meeting is very important. It's another one we did with the Bionic Chef. One day this gentleman was out hunting for food, saw a dead bear lying on the ground. Didn't realize what killed the bear was a down power line. Took out his knife, went to touch the bear. 2,400 volts of electricity immediately went through his body. Burned off 4 of his ribs, blew off his arm. The very same thing that almost killed him kept him alive. The electricity was so hot, it sealed his skin back together. He did not bleed to death. He was able to get up and walk for 3 miles to get help. See, these are the type of things kids, even elementary school kids, they're like, oh, that's so cool. But it goes back to the engagement piece. Now this guy has a bionic hand and a bionic forearm that understands the remaining sensory nerves left in his arm, as well as the signals from his brain, and whatever he thinks in the kitchen. Let's say he thinks, oh, I need to slice and dice a tomato. By just thinking about it, his bionic hand understands and can work in coordination with his other hand to immediately start slicing and dicing the tomato. He doesn't say, hand, slice and dice a tomato. Just thinks about it and is able to do it. This is one that was done in Palau with sea snakes. How do you get kids to care about DNA? When I was in school, I was like, oh my gosh. I honestly could care less. Well, we worked with this creature, a very deadly creature, and scientists have figured out that yes, it is a deadly creature, but you can also utilize it to save the lives of human beings. When we did this expedition, we weren't allowed to bring in any anti-venom into the country because the sea snake is a god there. And they feel, based on their gods, if that snake bites you on that day, minute, and hour, you were meant to die. Now, what's special about the snake, you'll see here, is scientists have figured out there's a genetic arms race between the sea snake and the eel. What you're looking at is a sea snake eating an eel that's twice its size. With each and every single birth, the venom from the sea snake slowly gets stronger, and the resistance from the eel gets stronger as well. Why is that important? Is the eel dead at this point? No, it's paralyzed. The venom from the sea snake disconnected the signal from its brain to its nervous system. So it turned the switch off. As much as this eel wants to fight, there's nothing it can physically do. It was at this point our brother started swimming backwards. I thought it was barking at us, but it was really burping because it just ate something twice its size and it spends half its life on land and half its time in the ocean. Now here's a picture of us taking blood directly from the heart of the snake without killing it. And what scientists have figured out is that if you alter the venom, which comes from its fangs, as well as the DNA, that's us taking the DNA from its heart without killing it, you can fight against heart attacks and heart disease in order to save the lives of human beings. Tons of venomous creatures can actually help save the lives of human beings. Some serums can be utilized to fight against diabetes, high blood pressure. You'll be amazed at what can occur from this. So another one we did, don't ever swim with jellyfish, but it's a cool picture. This is one we did in the Amazon. Does anyone see a snake in this picture? One of the most deadliest snakes that live on the floor of the jungle in the Amazon, it's known as a Lancehead viper snake, is in this picture. One of my teammates almost stepped on the snake, and here's the snake right here. There's a close-up of it, and here's a real close-up of it. The snake was 7 feet long. The snake bites you, within 10 steps you'll be dead. Of course, we capture other creatures, take in different experiences. This is some deforestation going on in the Amazon. The Amazon provides 20% of the oxygen we breathe on Earth. It's at the Wailing Wall in Israel, taking cultural experiences, and that's the weirdest thing I've ever eaten. Yep, that's a bat. That's fruit bat soup. So, took me 3 hours to eat this. I was with the royal family, and they know I'm American. What am I going to say? I'm allergic to bat? They know I've never eaten bat before. So you know, it's interesting, but students love these type of things, and we'll be doing this work.
I got a baby now.
I'll skip that. We'll be doing this work within DPS. I'm very excited about the opportunity to work within DPS, and I just encourage every single one of you all here in this room, picture yourself in a situation where you already have the resources here. How do you leverage? How do you collaborate? How do you make something happen? I started off with 3 holes in the bottom of my shoes. Anything is possible. Thank you guys so much. Thank you.